prior to racing, when I was little, I feel like pressure was just something that you had to collapse to, and just not really like hone yourself in and keep locked in and keep focused. But I feel like after this, racing really taught me that pressure is just a normal thing, and you got to keep going. You can't let it get to you. So that's really, I think, what racing taught me is just to keep looking ahead. And it just doesn't help me out in racing now. It's in life when I'm under pressure to do something on time, I always do it. And I feel like prior to racing, I would have never done that.
Welcome to the Details Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Williams, and today, believe it or not, I have another very special guest, Mr. Robert Krayevsky, who is a young, up and coming race car driver. He is working with Ralph Hansen Jr. from Pegasus Marketing, and he's on the fast track to go to the top. We're going to cover his journey from the beginning to where he's going. Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. And yourself?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Had a few little goblins that we had to work out, but we've really crossed some bridges here. You've helped me a lot, and I very much appreciate it.
We're here.
All right. So let's just tuck right into this. Give me a 30-second intro. Who are you? What are you doing and what are you chasing?
So, my name is Robert Krayevsky. I'm a 17-year-old race car driver. I started out a while back when I was 6 years old, a little bit of an unconventional path. I actually started in indoor karting, believe it or not, something that most people don't. I'm currently racing in Italy in a series called the FX Pro Series. We race around many tracks, including Monza, Imola, Mugello, just to name a few. And we utilize the Formula 4 car, the Gen 1, so it's the one without the halo. For 2026, I plan to do a full season of that. The goal is to win the championship. We had some good, strong results last season, basically this season, 2025, just ended actually. I did two full race weekends, and we were already fighting in the mid pack from the second race. And I had never raced this many people before. It's a 20 plus car grid, so it's actually some great racing and a great place to utilize and hone your skills.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
what's different about your path than most car drivers?
so actually, I come from a very different path. My family has never raced before, so I'm the first person in my family to race. Actually, I don't even know if my family knew what racing was because they came from the Soviet Union, as it was known back then. It's now Ukraine, and they actually moved here to the U.S. back in the '90s and built everything up to what it is now. So I'm the first person in my family who did that. Also, I didn't start like most people. I started, like I said prior, in indoor karting, something that most people don't start. I did make my way to outdoor karting after, but it did start out in indoor karting. So it was actually quite funny. The only reason I ever figured out about this is because of my dad's coworker who said, look, bring your son here. My son's been going here a couple times. It's a fun place. And that's how it all started.
All right. Before we dive all the way into the journey, when did this go from fun to a career path for you?
So when I was about 12 years old, I was doing, again, multiple indoor karting championships by now. I was winning a lot of the races against people who were much older than me, much experienced. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty good at this. It's what I love doing. I would come multiple days a week just to do it. And I really realized I had this thought in my head, like, this could really happen. There is potential for, who knows, maybe a seat in a professional race car team one day. So after that, around 10, maybe it was 11 years old, I just had a passion to go from then.
Now let's talk about the origin story and dig in for a little bit more context. What's your first memory of speed and how did that feel?
So the first memory of speed, it goes way back. I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old. And this is actually all in one day. It's so funny. So we were scrolling through channels, and we pass by and we see the F1 Grand Prix. It was actually in Valencia that year, so it was a very unique Grand Prix. And I actually only got a glimpse of it. It didn't catch my attention back then, but then I started thinking about it. Funny enough, a couple hours later, my dad. So back then he had this Mini Cooper. It was on stick, and we were just driving around in a parking lot. He was driving fast, and he was like, "You want to give it a go?" I was literally like, I think 4 years old, 3 years old, and obviously I wasn't in the seat, but he basically he was in the driver's seat. He put me there. I had no control of anything but the brake and the gas. The clutch was all him, so he would like pull my leg off when it was time to shift. So basically, I started putting on the gas, had my hand on the gearbox transmission. Every time he would tell me, put the foot on the gas, and then when he wanted me to shift, yank my foot off and move my hand into the gear. And then from then on, it was just like I loved going fast. I had these little toy cars since I was little RC cars. I loved doing that. Not only that, but I had these little like I don't know if you remember like the little mini cars that people drive on, like the Wranglers and those mini little cars. So ever since then, it's just been something ingrained in my mind.
Nice. Okay. Well, what did indoor karting teach you that's going to surprise most people?
So in indoor karting, it's a little different. It's not like you have long, large straights where you can pass people. All the passing is done in the turns, and you actually learn a lot because there you're sliding. Sliding is more or less like a normal thing in indoor karting because let's say you're on these rubber tires and it's a floor that has no grip. It's like so slick. So you learn a lot of car control there, much more than because I've done indoor karting and outdoor karting, and I feel like I got my car control skills all from indoor karting because you would go dive down the inside, you would still slide a lot. So you're trying to pass somebody, you go in, and then you feel the rear slide, and obviously you don't want to crash, right? And you still want to pass the person. So that's basically what I learned from indoor karting as opposed to anything else I've done. It's car control. That's basically like the main thing I got from it.
Sometimes we go to the K1 and we do the indoor karting, and it's really fun. And it gives me so much more respect for you guys because my forearms are tired after the what, like 10 or 11 laps that we do. Like it's really tiring.
Oh yeah, no, it's something completely different, very unique. And I have to add in, I don't know how many people have done outdoor karting, but that stuff is brutal. Like I had my first ever experience in a shifter cart back in the summer, and that is like honestly, I'd have to say any sort of karting on steroids because you're trying to shift. Your ribs are absolutely in like pain, but it's all worth it. It's so much fun. So yeah, props to anyone who does that on the regular. But that's an amazing, amazing experience.
All right, touch base with me on the very first cart that you got. Like the indoor ones are all electric. Is that true? Okay.
Yes, they're all.
Tell me about the first one you got. What was her name? What was her number? And what do you remember about it?
So it's interesting actually. I started doing outdoor karting with the team I'm at right now. So I never actually owned my card. I got lucky. We were just using the team's card, and it was a tag senior, I think, and that was such a fun card. My first ever experience, and honestly, it really helped out. Not, I would say, it doesn't really translate as you think to the Formula Four. So it more or less just gives you a good racing, like a set racing boundary because now you know how to race people, you know how to go wheel to wheel. Let's say you just do F4 without ever getting an experience in a go kart. It's going to be completely different. It's going to be very hard just to race people. The driving is a completely different factor. But what I learned by most from karting was just how to race very close with anyone.
Okay. So early on, what were you best at? What were you starting to excel at? Was it like your focus, your racecraft, the aggression?
So I feel like I'm an aggressive driver, but I can control that. You know, a lot of people they drive aggressively in racing, but it actually doesn't translate very well. But I feel like my first like skill that I really learned how to control and input into my racing was aggression, because I would be able to control it. I had that hunger to go and pass people, but I wouldn't let it overshoot me because I actually was able to keep it on the track and make the pass.
Okay. So tell me about an early loss that changed the way you drive.
So this is actually an interesting story. This was still actually in the days of indoor karting. I was, I think, in a pro series, and I was my first time leading a race. Mind you, this was I think, my second time ever in this series. And I was leading the race, and last second, I feel like, you know what? Let's just try to set the fastest lap. And I was well in the lead, and just because of that idea to go and push a little too hard, I ended up kind of in the wall, and I had to just go back on track, and I did lose the win. I just ended up, I think, in fourth. So after that, I learned how to really, like I said, control the aggression, like we were talking about before, and I was able to really win without having to have any mistakes. Because I think having a race without any mistakes, it just gives you the best feeling, because not only did you do well, but you also kept it very clean throughout the whole race.
No. In one sentence, what did karting teach you about pressure?
So I think, just to sum it all up, pressure is pressure is something you have to get used to. So in karting, it really taught me that pressure is just another normal feeling in racing, and you just have to you just have to keep it on track, and you just have to keep going with it. Keep your head forward. Don't look back. Don't think about what's behind you. Just think about yourself and think about what's ahead of you. Because if you think about what's behind you, that's when the pressure gets to you, and that's when the mistakes start coming. So I think it really taught me just to keep my mind forward and just keep trying to do better.
Come. Okay, so you were in karts from 6 years old. How many years did you do karts? You went from indoor karts to outdoor karts, and then we're going to move into these formula cars. But how many years were you doing karts?
So on a weekly basis, I was doing indoor karting since I was about six. We did do sporadic outdoor races, like I mentioned, with the team I'm at right now. It was more or less 15, but now I think I transferred from karts to F4. Like the first ever F4 experience was when I was 16. We were already at that point where it was time to really, if you want to do this, you have to get into the car, and that's what people were telling me. So I think at 16 it was from 6 to 16 it was karts, a lot of indoor karting, sporadic outdoor races, uh, basically just the pro series of indoor karting, for 10 years straight. And after that, like I said, we decided it was time to get on, make the move up. Did a lot of research. I wanted to know what was the ideal path. And obviously, F4 is the entry series to open wheel, which is the original ladder everybody takes. Even, let's say, if I take a GT path or some other endurance type of path, you still always start in a single seater. So it was 10 years, I want to say, that we did the karting for.
Okay, so the first time you sit down in a formula car, what shocked you the most?
The thing that shocked me the most was the brake pedal. I mean, look, I was 16, and for karts, like the pedal, like the brake pedal is just like a. In a F4 car, it's you have to put immense pressure, immense psi to hit the brakes, and that's what shocked me. I didn't realize it was like a brick wall. I didn't realize that that's how the brakes were in race cars. So when I touched that brake pedal for the first time, you best believe that I did this. It just didn't even do anything. And then after that, I mean, I learned my lesson. I had realized, this is a completely different beast. So the brakes are what shocked me the most.
So as you're coming up and you kind of moved from the indoor electric carts, and that was like you started with rentals, but then you started to get your own carts and your own outdoor carts. Who was doing all the mechanic stuff for you? Is that all held in family?
So luckily, the team really supported me, and they had a mechanic who was specialized in karts. He actually does work on the F4 cars, but their team would always come with a mechanic that, because my family, my dad actually, to add on, my dad was never at the little kart races because he had to work to pay for this, and no one else really had experience with machinery like that. So my team was actually kind enough and nice enough to supply a mechanic to help out with it.
That's pretty cool. How about when you switched over to the formula cars? Did that situation change, or did because I'm just imagining every time you're kind of leveling up the ladder, it just gets more and more serious.
Yeah, so basically the mechanics doubled. I actually got an engineer sometimes when it was like pre-race weekends and we were testing and we wanted to get the most out of the car, we would actually start to fit in an engineer who would look at all the data and stuff like that, plus a coach. So it actually, just as the levels goes up, the mechanics, more of them, engineers you get, and a coach. So it really completely changed when we went from karting because that's when stuff became serious.
So what changed in your training once you started taking that next step and started to really get more serious about it in formula?
I want to say my whole life changed. I was going to the gym once in a while. I think like let's say 3 times a week prior to this, and cardio was just not even a concern for me. Sim time, I always liked the simulator, but actually to add on, it really also increased. Like let me tell you my daily schedule. Even today, prior to this podcast, I was on a simulator for 2 hours. Actually, I'm gonna run 2 miles after this, and then I'm gonna go to the gym, and that's actually my daily like routine. I go to the gym every day, I run every day, and I use the simulator every day from an hour to 2 hours at least. My minimum is an hour on the simulator a day, and my diet completely changed. I only eat stuff at home. I make my own meals because I want to be in peak performance for like because I want to be a peak athlete. So you have to be in peak performance. So I take completely well care of my health, try to be in the best shape, and try to do the simulator as much as I can.
What's a skill that you're obsessed with working on right now? I would imagine that you probably always have something that's like your focus that you're really trying to perfect.
Discipline. And that's funny to say because what I just said prior would make you think, oh, you're a pretty disciplined guy. But no, I'm always trying to be more disciplined. I'm trying to have as least screen time as possible. I don't want to be on social media scrolling because that's just more time wasted. So it's discipline to keep my mind focused and just keep looking on ahead.
For this one, I want to kind of flip it. I want you to explain to me from a fan's point of view what they might notice if you're really on fire and driving great.
So what the fan is gonna notice is just consistent turning in at the same time, never like a different like I always am gonna hit my marks. If I'm on fire and I really want to pass somebody, you're gonna see how like my head is just like basically for all the turns. Like it's just like a mind, no, nothing like major. We don't well, I don't do anything sporadic. Like I'm not looking around. I don't look panic. My mind is just forward because when I want to pass somebody, it's just look forward and try to break as late as possible without any lockups and just consistent turning in all the time.
Okay. Now, as you moved into formula, your very first race, what was the biggest mental challenge that you had to face?
So originally it was just the amount of cars because I had never seen like 20 other F4 cars on track at the same time. And you get used to it as the sessions go by, but like my first session out, it was crazy to me to see so many of the same cars on track, and you want to keep pace with them. You don't want to be like a rock in the middle of the track, so you have to speed up as fast as possible to be on pace with everybody. You don't want to block anybody, and you definitely don't want to be blocked yourself, so you got to be able to pass people. So just the amount of people on track was the first challenge I had.
Tell me about a moment that you almost made a mistake and how you pulled out of it.
So in my first ever race, there is a very, very fast turn in the beginning. It's actually the track Valle Lunga. And it was actually funny because this had never happened to me until the race. Maybe it was the tires that were worn, but you're going about 150 miles an hour, the fastest the car can go through these two long turns. It's like very, very nice flowing turns, and I didn't even notice. But if you go over the curb a bit, oh, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna be very uncomfortable. And I had never done it up to the race. Maybe I was so focused on the car ahead at the moment that I wasn't even seeing how close I was to using up all the track. So I'm going through that turn, and I basically just have the wheel straight, turning like this barely for the turn, and then I just randomly get this huge snap, and you think that's it, the race is over, you're gonna spin, you're gonna crash, but no, I managed to hang on, and I actually managed to not lose much pace to the person ahead, and about half a lap later, I still got past him. So just I guess the focus is really what saved me in that moment.
What is racing made you learn about yourself when you're under pressure?
Yeah, so prior to racing, when I was little, I feel like pressure was just something that you had to collapse to, and just not really like hone yourself in and keep locked in and keep focused. But I feel like after this, racing really taught me that pressure is just a normal thing and you got to keep going. You can't let it get to you. So that's really, I think, what racing taught me is just to keep looking ahead. And it just doesn't help me out in racing now. It's in life when I'm under pressure to do something on time, I always do it. And I feel like prior to racing, I would have never done that.
And where do you live in the United States? When you're in the United States.
Yeah, so I'm in Long Island, New York.
Okay. Okay. So now are you actually in Italy right now?
So no, I'm actually here in Long Island right now because the season has ended. I go to Italy. It could be like from a span of 2 weeks all the way to a month. I know in the summer I went. It was a really nice long trip of racing. I went by myself because my parents can't come with me. I went by myself to Italy. Team took care of me. I was there for a month. We basically completely changed. I mean, we basically took a lot of different racing adventures. I'd want to say I did a lot of tests, and I actually raced another car. It's very similar to an Formula Ford. It's called the Predators car, and that 1 month of racing I think completely gave me so much more skill level. But in the off season, I'm here in Long Island, New York. We're gonna go back, I think, in February for a tire test, actually paid for by the tire supplier, which is nice. So that's the plan, probably for the next time we're in Italy.
So, what's different about and I mean, this is huge. You're going all over the world. Well, what's different about when you're racing outside of your homeland? Like, outside of your home tracks and the tracks that you're used to, going to another country. Is it the culture, the intensity? How are the drivers different?
So, I mean, the biggest barrier is obviously that a lot of people don't speak English, right? So you feel like it's really just you yourself competing for, I guess, your own nation and your own people. When I'm in Italy, it's more like you can't make, let's say, you can't really be friends with the drivers because there was that language barrier. So it's really just you and yourself in Italy, like as opposed to in America, where all the drivers, you can talk to them, you can be friendly with them. On track in Italy, it's like completely different story. You don't know them off the track and you don't know them on the track. So that's the biggest difference I feel between Italy and the United States in racing terms.
I think something that in race car driving, you have things are going to go wrong. How if you have anything that goes wrong or a mistake happens, how do you reset yourself on the fly? I mean, if you're at race day, it's not like you have the chance to come back tomorrow and do it again. But how do you reset yourself and keep moving forward?
So I actually learned this trick from a YouTube video I saw back where it was just you make a mistake, all you think in your mind is next. And honestly, like sometimes I make a mistake and I just yell next. Like, what's next? The next turn. What do you do on the next turn? You just focus on what's next. I don't even try to focus on the mistake because if you do, you could miss a break point. You could make a huge mistake if you just focus on the mistake prior. So after I make a mistake, I just look forward and think about what's next.
All right, so now that you've been in those formulas car for a year, what are you doing differently now than when you first sat in it?
So of course, when you first get in the car, it's a completely different, like it's a completely new feeling from karting to the race car. So I mean, maybe back then my braking technique is completely different as it until now. When I just started, the easiest way to start is to just go on off the brakes, which is a very, it's not a great, it's not a great way to brake. But obviously, as the time goes on, you learn how to trail brake. So that's something that I added into my collection, just feeling the car in itself. Like now, every time I'm driving, I'm on the limit. So I feel the car loose a little bit. And I feel like when I just started, maybe if you felt the car loose, it was just because you're oversteering. But now it's actually, I'm on the limit. I'm doing everything I possibly can. And that's not something that I feel like I felt just in the beginning. So just, of course, trail braking and being on the limit is something that as time went on, I built up.
In one sentence, What's the hardest lesson racing has taught you?
Just focusing ahead. I feel like back when I was even in the karting days, I was literally turning around to look back, which you don't want to do. And I feel like as time went on, especially when I got into the Formula car, because you have mirrors, so you're not turning around and looking back. But when there was someone putting pressure on you, I'm not even looking behind me unless they're like about to pass me and I need to look. If they're just like, I don't know, a couple of like 10 meters away from you and they're not even trying to pass you, I'm just looking forward. I'm trying to get the best turn in and the best line because I feel like if I look back or if I keep looking back, it's just gonna slow me down, and that person is gonna get past me. So the biggest lesson is just look forward. Don't look back and make a mistake because it's gonna ruin your race. So unless, like I said, someone's gonna pass me and I need to look back, I'm not looking back. I'm just trying to ace my turn and keep going.
Moving forward, like you just said. What does a successful season look like to you? And I look at this like in business and everything else. Like if you're on a journey, you have to have some goals. What kind of measurable goals do you set for yourself?
So ideally, you want to be top five every race because that's where you get noticed. So I focus originally on the lap times, and unlike other people, I focus on the lap times because if your lap times are at the top, you're gonna be at the top. So being at the top five consistently, that's a good goal for a season. Next season, like I said, I already know some of these tracks. I know the competition. I feel like I could win the championship because I was fighting for the top five in my last race, and that was only my second race weekend ever in this type of environment in Italy with 20 plus cars. So a successful season next year is going to be to win the championship, which is obviously a high goal. But I feel like if you set high goals, you're going to land somewhere pretty high up anyways. So obviously a top five is going to be something that is amazing, but winning the championship is really what I want to do.
And how do you decide when it's time to move to the next level?
So we talked about this with my team. If I consistently am getting podiums and wins next season, we're gonna start testing me in Formula 3 machinery, and we actually have a connection with the Porsche Cup team. So I might do some testing with them, and that's gonna set the sights for 2027, which is F3 or a GT if we make the transition to that. And if we do get consistent wins and podiums, that's gonna be what we do.
So your goals in the long term are IndyCar or F1. It's a totally different style of racing going in just in a circle or and with all the turns. Which do you prefer? Which is more fun for you to be out there driving?
I think for any driver, they're going to want to be an IndyCar much more. The only difference, of course, you don't have the glamour, you don't have the prestige, but I personally, I don't care about that. I just want to race and I want to win. And I feel like in IndyCar, you can win from the lowest team on the grid. In F1, I mean, you're just going to be in the back the whole time and you're not really racing. So my preference is to race in IndyCar. I love IndyCar. It's just from the Indy 500 to Laguna Seca. Every single race in IndyCar is just like it's like watching a spectacle. So IndyCar is my preference.
Yeah, me too. I kind of came from there, so so really interesting that you hooked up. How did you meet Ralph Hansen Jr.? That's our common connection. For me, he was a fraternity brother in my fraternity a few years before me, but his career has been just amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I have LinkedIn, which is something I know it's very important to have for race car drivers. I made a lot of connections from it. And Ralph was one of the connections I made, and he I think messaged me first, was telling me, "Oh, I can help if you need any sort of assistance." We started talking more, and I was like, you know what, it's a fit because obviously every driver is looking for sponsors, and I feel like if I could find one for 2027, it's more very important to have a sponsor because we want to make this step up, and sponsors what we're gonna need. So it's better to get on track early, and that's how I discovered Ralph. We started talking, like I said, on LinkedIn, and after that, we made a plan to see what we can do for the 2026 season and up ahead. So that's how me and Ralph connected.
And sponsorship. absolutely maybe one of the most important parts of racing because you gotta have it's an expensive sport. Um, what do sponsors misunderstand about what they're buying when they're gonna sponsor a race car driver?
So I think what sponsors misunderstand the most is that it's not as easy as you think it is to win every single weekend. Not only that, but I feel like sponsors nowadays are pivoting more to the social media and promotional side, as opposed to, let's say, you have the logo on the car and you win. That still is going to be very promotional, but I feel like now sponsors more care about you have millions of followers, and I feel like that's something that they should pivot from. They should more look at talent and who can really be promotable by them as well. And I think what sponsors misunderstand is that no one's going to win all the time. You're going to have a championship winning drive if you win like every now and then, even. But I think sponsors misunderstand the fact that not everyone can have a huge social media following like in a second. Like eventually you can get one. But I think they misunderstand the social media side of it a lot, and sometimes, like I said, winning every single race, which is not attainable even for people like Max Verstappen, who we see right now. He won a lot of races this season, but he wasn't even close to winning every race. So I think that's the two biggest things.
So as a driver partner, what kind of stuff do you have to supply? Content or appearances, hospitality? There's so many layers to the onion. What do you need to do to be successful from the driver's side?
So what I'm doing right now is I am making a structured plan for content. I'm going to be posting a lot on my social media, making that grow, because like we were saying, social media is dire nowadays for sponsors. Not only that, but I'm trying to be at the top of every single race. I actually have this very good idea. Let's say an energy drink sponsorship comes through. I want to put the energy drink on the top of my car for all the fans to see, because something that's very good about where I race in my series, the FX Pro Series, is that we race alongside other large championships like the European Le Mans Series or Formula Regionals Europe. And there was 11,000 plus fans every weekend there. And they can walk through the paddock if they want. So if there's fans looking at my race car with, let's say, an energy drink or some other promotable product, they're going to wonder, what is this? And they're going to search it up. So I think that's something that a lot of sponsors can't find in other series, because in America, I've noticed even in the F4 championships, the stands are empty. There's not as much passion in racing, unfortunately, in the United States. But in Italy, it's crazy. 11,000 plus fans every weekend walking by. So many people want pictures. So that's something that I feel I can offer to brands that not many other people can.
Out of all the sponsors and brands out there, what kind of companies or sponsors really do you feel like you resonate with?
So I feel like a good donation fund to. I have two very interesting backgrounds. I'm Jewish and I'm Ukrainian. So we have, unfortunately, in my case, two of my backgrounds are at war right now, and there was a lot of donation funds happening. And what I want to do is I want to have the donation fund on my car, because not only is that a cause I actually care about, but I feel like it could promote the boat. I feel like it could help out the both of us a lot. So that's something we're eyeing right now.
Give me a 20-second pitch that would be directed to a sponsor who may be watching right now.
I'm in a race series with, again, like I said, a lot of attention. We get 11,000 plus fans, not even just in total, just on track on race day. Not to mention another 10,000 watching. So if you're if I'm let's say I know I'm going to be at the top. So if you're at the top racing and a lot of people are looking at your car, they're going to be like, who's driving this and what's this on the car?" So let's say the sponsor is large on the car. They're going to look up sponsor name and then who drives that car. And just looking up that sponsor name is going to make people interested. So uh, a lot of fans are going to be at the race. And I think that that's something that you can't get in a lot of race series, but you can get here.
Yeah. I really think of as I was with a company that we sponsored Blancpain World Challenge Series. So I got to go to a lot of the races as a sponsor. And I think my favorite part was taking my customers to the hospitality and in taking them to play on the race car simulators and just I, so That's a huge, huge side of it that I think is really important.
So hospitality is something that I do want to do eventually. Let's say we do, which I know we're going to get a sponsor eventually. So hospitality is definitely something I can work on. I would work on anything that the sponsor wants. Like let's say I'm on a track day, I'm going to let the sponsor come and watch, have maybe some other people over just to see the pure raw racing that Junior Formula offers. And I feel like that's something that can actually help attain more customers for sponsors, because let's say they need like potential customers. They could be like, look, we're currently in a partnership with this driver, do you want to come see it, we'll discuss business over that. So I think that that's something that I can offer for sure.
And who are you trying to make proud in this racing venture?
So of course you I feel like everyone as a boy looks as their dad as their idol, and I wanted to make my dad like, I want to prove him like right, because he knows I can do this, and the amount of money he's spending on this is just, I really really want to prove my dad right. I want him to see that this is gonna end up as what we all dream it will.
In 5 years from now, what do you want people to look back and say about you as a driver?
I want them to use me as an example that determination and commitment really gets you to your goals, because I feel like a lot of people misjudge that they want to do something, and then if they make one failure, oh, it's over. No, you have to keep determined, you have to keep focused. So I want to say, because in 5 years, the goal is to be a professional driver. So when I'm a professional, in 5 years, people are going to say, look, he did it. He came from really a very different background than anyone else, and he still was able to become a professional. So just keep determined and keep looking forward, and you'll get there.
And what's something that you would want fans, especially as you start collecting more and more of them, to realize about you, your journey in racing?
So I want them to personally think to themselves that they can do anything if they think about it, because like most people are going to look at me and they're not going to understand the background or where you came from, but I want fans to see that you can be anything you want if you just, like I said prior, keep focused to it and keep pushing.
All right, paint out a little bit of a fantasy for me here. Tell me about how this journey is going to go for the rest of your career. And this is a really big, broad question, but like, do you see yourself moving up at X time of your life? And when do you feel like you're going to have that first IndyCar experience?
So of course we're gonna do the full season in 2026 in Italy. We're gonna win the championship, and then I want to do a road to Indy series. So I think the USF 2000 is something we can do in 2027. So let's say I do well in that championship, place top five, and we keep moving up the ladder. And I want to say maybe in 3 to 5 years time, I get that first test in IndyCar. That's gonna be the best feeling I've ever had in my life. That's really all. Like I'm just thinking about it right now. Driving an Indy car just feels so awesome. So let's say in 5 years' time, I'm testing it for the first time. Maybe even less, 4 years' time, and that's the picture I want to paint. Just keep doing well in the championships, make the road to Indy, and from then on, I feel like that's where the dream will happen. I do want to eventually win the Indy 500, so that's a set I want to cite. That's something I want to do in like 5 years' time. Imagine just at the top of the Indy 500. That's gonna be an amazing feeling.
It sure is, and I'm excited to watch it.
Thank
I
you.
would I would not be so excited to be in that car though. Holy moly. I this is just a little side note. When we were doing the sponsorship for the Blanc Pain, I did a hot lap with a guy. We were in a McLaren 620, and we got up to like 168 in the backstretch up in Sonoma. That man was just driving like we were going to get a loaf of bread. And I was white knuckling, just going, "Holy crap! If we lose it, it's incredible." I don't think people really fully grasp how low to the ground you are and how fast you're going in those cars.
Well, yeah, to add on to that, when I'm driving, the thing in the back, like the last thing on my mind is what could happen. You just want to, like I said, think about doing stuff better. Because let's say I think about, oh shit, I don't want to crash right now. The chances of crashing increase tremendously, I feel like. So the last thing on my mind is the consequences of what you're doing, and the top of my mind is just go faster. So I think that's something we all can relate to. And you just want to be so focused that it feels like you're, like you said, driving for the grocery store or something like that.
Okay, so now let's jump into a little rapid fire section. I'm just going to give you really short questions and you can give me really short answers. What do you think that your edge is over drivers?
Carrying a lot of speed through high speed corners and just being committed, not half a lift, no lift. If it's a flat out turn, I'm going to stay flat out.
The biggest misconception people have about racing.
That you can just hop in and be good automatically. Like I see on social media, let's say a F1 driver crashes, they're like, oh, I would have never done that. No, you would have 100% done that. So just the fact that it's way harder than it looks.
What's a mistake that you've made that you will never repeat?
Probably locking up and going off the track and joining at a spot where you just don't want to be on. Let's say I was testing, I went just a bit off track, and I on 110-mile-an-hour straight just started cruising along. Luckily, there was no one there, but I thought about the consequences. That's something I'm never going to do again.
Okay. What's the best piece to date of advice that you've been given? And who'd it come from?
So I want to say it's from my dad, and it's just to keep going. When something bad happens or unfortunate, you don't want to be a Debbie Downer and look down. You just need to look ahead and look at the bright side of everything. Don't be a half empty person. Be a half full person.
What's a sacrifice in racing that most people don't see?
The amount of time you have to spend preparing for a race, that's much more time. Your race is, let's say, maximum 45 minutes in a junior formula car, but it's the amount of time that goes into preparing for it that really no one really sees. It's the commitment.
What would you tell a young up and coming person that they should be doing if they want to have a career in racing?
Simulator is so important because now I go onto a racetrack that I've never known, never actually driven in real life. I could be on pace in the first couple of laps in a practice session just because that simulator time is what makes the difference, I want to say.
Okay. What's the weakest skill that you have that you're working on right now to be better?
I just want to say structuring everything to help me in racing. There were some days where I do everything I want to, and that makes a productive day for practice. And there's other days where I just go off tangent and I do, I don't know, 30 minutes of sim time. And that's something that I've noticed got tremendously lower when I started practicing a lot more. But it's just structuring your day to be the best person and be the best version of yourself.
So I grew up, I was a wrestler. And before every wrestling meet, I would put on my headphones with my cassette Walkman and I'd be listening to Eye of the Tiger. What do you do to prep yourself up and get pumped up for a race?
So this is interesting. Recently, this has started happening a lot where my teammate has a very, very interesting dad, and he started doing this thing with little like K cups where we've all seen the video of like Pierre Gasly or one of our race car drivers with a tennis ball where you drop it and you try to catch it like this. Well, one person drops it, the other one catches it, and he started doing that but with K cups, and just doing that reaction testing right before a race, it got me so locked in and so focused. Like I made up more places when I started doing that than ever. Now I do like these little reaction time tests on my phone where it's lights out and away we go. It's all red lights and you try to be as fast as possible. So I feel like all these little additions of reaction time testing right before going out on track is something that I've started implementing a lot.
Thus far, what is your favorite track and why?
So I have to say Vallelunga, which is a track about an hour, maybe even a little less north of Rome. It's my most famous favorite track that I've ever driven on. It's very simple. It's such a high speed track, and I've noticed that I excel in high speed corners the most. So that track is just so fast, and I love the feeling of speed. So Valley Luga by far is the best track I've ever been to.
So before we wrap it up, I'm actually really interested. Analytics and studying the stuff on the car, I imagine as you've been moving up and up and now that you're in these formula cars, that there's a lot more that you can study with the analytics. Not only just, videoing going around the track, but what kind of analytics do you look at with your team?
So of course data is very important. We look at the brake trace, we look at the speed trace, we look at like the level of G's you're carrying through each turn, because on our tires specifically we utilize the Hankook for races. The Pirelli we use just for testing. It's all about 2G as the maximum G you can use. So we look at a turn, if you're carrying as much G as you can. If you're at 2G, you're perfect. You're at the limit. Let's say you're only using 1.1 G, 1.2 G, there's a lot more you can do and a lot more you can push. So looking through the data, I want to say obviously is a very, very important thing. But when you mix data with video, that's where you really get to see where you're losing time. Not only that, but I actually read a lot of books. One of the more important books, if I can remember, it was called Drive to Win. I think Drive to Win, and a lot of books help you out because you get to see everything on the car, like camber, caster, ride height, all that you can adjust. You learn about it, and just knowing about a race car actually helps you a lot. So that's what we went over as a team. I actually got the recommendation from my team owner to read that book. And after I read it, I actually gained a lot of speed.
Well, look, I'm excited to watch your career unfold. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you get to that Indy 500 level, you can't forget about Dan. You got to come back and do another run with me.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I would love to join you for many more podcasts in the future, hopefully, when we're up there. And I'm really looking forward to what's to come. If you want to stay on my journey, I have my Instagram, which is literally my first and last name, Robert Krayevsky. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you're interested in partnering with me. Again, first and last name, Robert Krayevsky. I'm going to keep everybody posted. So that's sounds like a plan.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, getting off of the simulator for a moment to sit down and talk with me. It's been a real pleasure. And again, I look forward to watching your career unfold.
Same here. It's been a pleasure being here, and I'm really looking forward to again doing some more things in the future.